Our personal testimonies hold a tremendous power. They reflect the transformative work of God in our lives and can inspire and encourage other people. The Bible emphasizes the importance of sharing our testimonies as a means to glorify God and build up the body of Christ. And that is exactly what Testimony Tuesdays with Leisha and Nichelle is all about. Revelation chapter 12, verse 11 says, "And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they love not their lives even unto death." This verse reveals the power and significance of sharing our testimonies. It emphasizes that our testimonies of how Christ has saved us through his blood have the power to conquer the enemy and inspire others to follow Christ, even if it means laying down our lives. So, as I stated before, our testimonies hold a tremendous power. They encourage our and others' faith. They help bring hope. They encourage others. They also help us spread the gospel and to glorify God. Your testimony is not only just about your past, but it's also about your present and or your future. And the beautiful thing about a testimony, so before I get started with exactly what this particular testimony will be about, I want to touch on, I want to tell a quick little story. So I am in therapy, as everyone should be. I have an absolutely wonderful therapist. And when I went to my last therapy session, it was definitely a huge connection. It was definitely a confirmation that I had in that particular session. And why it was confirmation for me, because I was scrambling, not necessarily scrambling, but I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about first in my Testimony Tuesday, because I already have it lined up. I know everything that I want to talk about. I just didn't know what could be first. What should I talk about first? And it was crazy because we ended up talking about what I'm going to talk about today, of course, in that therapy session. And I realized that I never talked about it before. I never spoke about it out loud. And I honestly thought that it was something that I have overcame. I was over it and I was completely healed. I was, I was good. I was good on that situation. And, when I started speaking that thing, like I said before, I have not spoken this thing out loud before, like actually talked about it out loud before. Like everybody in my family or those that are closest to me knew the situation, but I never actually talked about it. And when I finally did talk about it in that session, I immediately realized I had some unhealed areas that I needed to deal with. I had some, I had some areas that I realized that I pushed to the back. And just because I didn't focus on it or I didn't speak on it or I continuously told myself that I was good did not necessarily mean that I was good. Yes, I had forgiven. Yes, I had, moved on from certain parts that I did not allow to continue to hold me bondage. But there were still some areas that, when triggered, it was doing what it was supposed to do. So she immediately reminded me that don't be deterred to speak about this during your first podcast, because it is in fact still a testimony. And the beautiful thing about a testimony, like I said, it can be about your past and it can also be about your present and future. And so that what that means, that it doesn't mean that you have necessarily overcame that thing. You can still very much so be in the midst of it. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It doesn't, you can still tell your story, you can still tell your testimony and still encourage somebody while you're in the midst of, because how beautiful is it to know that you're going through or the wilderness, or you're in that particular situation that somebody is maybe a few steps ahead of you or in the midst of that situation with you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the beautiful thing about a testimony. You could be in different stages of that healing process, of that grieving process, and still encourage somebody along the way. So that is my encouraging word for you guys. Don't be deterred to share your testimony. Don't just be deterred to think you're not qualified or you can't help others because you may not be 100%, you know, healed in that particular area or 100% overcoming in that situation. So it's beautiful and it's so comforting knowing that someone is in the midst of or has been in the midst of that situation with you. It also makes it more beautiful that you have God to sustain you during the midst of and after. So I just want to encourage you to embrace and welcome any and all feelings while you are in the midst of and after, because you're going to still, things are still going to come up and remind you. You know, the enemy loves to play with our minds, so things are going to come up and still remind you of this situation or that situation. But I encourage you to not run, not tuck a tail and hide, but embrace those feelings and sit and properly grieve. Sit in those feelings, welcome those emotions, face those emotions so that you can properly grieve and that you can properly heal. And that's exactly what I've had to do and still have to do. So, as you can see by the title of this particular video, I will be speaking on daddy issues. And so, this will be my first time actually telling this story out loud, aside from that therapy session that I mentioned before. So, a little disclaimer, please bear with me throughout this video. Growing up, I was a daddy's girl. It was nothing you could tell me about my dad. You couldn't tell me that he had any flaws, or I mean, like, you could tell me he had flaws, but it would not sway me in any way, shape, or form. I was a daddy's girl, loved my dad, still love my dad, but I was like head over heels for my dad as growing up. I cherished the time that we spent in, you know, him always coming to check in on me, whether it was just a pop up at my daycare, making me feel like, you know, that girl in front of all of my friends, feeling secure and safe in his arms, feeling on top of the world when he would lift me up. Just the constant memories, just being picked up and being able to spend time with him, being able to spend time with my family, my brothers. I will always cherish those memories. Those were some amazing times. Like I said, I absolutely loved it. I was a daddy's girl. So yeah, after a while, some things did change. Um, as a child, I remember eventually those visits and those pickups, they began to slow down and they began to slow down. I'm gonna come get you tomorrow. And then maybe he'll make it up a few days later or so. And eventually the slowdown came to a halt and those visits just stopped. I will always remember sitting by the window with my bags packed, waiting on my dad to pull up, sitting by the phone, waiting on him to call to let me know I'm running a little late or something, and it never happening. So eventually, as I became older and it just became consistent where I just would not see him at all, I just grew numb to the situation. At least I thought, but I grew in my mind at the time. I grew numb to the situation. And I was I wouldn't say very, but I was an angry child. I always had something to prove. Always had a smart comment, ready to fight the world. So a lot of that stemmed from that, and I know that now as an adult. But yeah, so like I said, those visits eventually stopped, and it did alter some of my behavior growing up. Um, what Thinking back, what angered me the most about him not showing up is I mean, how you allow yourself as a man, as a father, to not want to be a part of your child's life, your only daughter's life, and you guys stay in the same city and still do. I think that's what angered me the most because I just didn't get it. So yeah, that's what I think angered me the most. But one particular situation that I chose to forget growing up, I wouldn't say necessarily chose to forget. I put it so far back in the back of my mind that I completely forgot about it growing up until I became an adult. That really affected me growing up. And again, once again, of course, I did not realize all of this until I became an adult. Um, so it was one night where he would pick up me and my brothers. I have three older brothers on my dad's side, and he would pick up me, my two older brothers, and of course, like I said, he is currently married with one son by her, so that he was already there. And yeah, we would all spend a night. We would all get to spend time with each other. And for some reason, those spent my older brother that he has with his current wife, he got to sleep in his own room, sleep in his own bed. As I said before, I am his only daughter. Thinking back to it, it's kind of like, why was I in this situation? But I had to sleep with my two older brothers, while my other brother got to sleep in his room. So eventually, um, eventually those nights turned into me being sexually molested by one of my brothers. And I remember one night in particular, my dad was, he was in the room checking on us like he normally would before we went to bed, and I thought he could see clear as day my brother touching me and motioning under the covers. I mean, I thought I still do to this day think he saw some type of motion going on, but I did, I said stop in the hopes that my dad would say something, and he said, what's going on? And I told him he's touching me, and he kind of like brushed it off, like, stop, turn over, go to sleep, stop touching her. And I had every thought running through my mind, like, did he not see that? I did he not see that? Or I guess it was okay. Was this okay? It was um like I just had every thought running through my mind. I guess this is okay. I guess this is normal. Um, I guess this is how girls are supposed to be treated, or I just in that moment I did not feel protected in so many words. Um, I told everyone I was not going to say sorry, so I'm going to keep it rolling. I'm going to keep it real authentic. So if y'all see some tears, just keep going. But yes, so in that moment, I that was the first time a man had let me down. That was the first time I did not feel protected by a man, and never did since then. Um, I did not realize that this was a problem. Like I said, I had forgot about this growing up until I became an adult, and I got married, and I could not, you know, put up with certain things from my husband. I did not want my husband touching me in a certain way because it triggered some things, and I had to really sit with myself and think about, like, what is going on with me? Why am I being so mean? Why am I pushing him away? And all these thoughts and memories started to resurface. And the first time I spoke about it was to my then husband, and I had to explain to him, like, it's not you. This is why I am the way that I am, or this is why I handled that situation the way that I did. Um, so back to my dad. Like I said, I didn't feel protected in that situation. I really got let down in a lot of situations when it came to my dad. I can date back to a visit to, he had a new home. Just got a new home, and he picked me up. So I think it was a housewarming party, if I'm not mistaken. And he picked me up, and I went there, and I came in the doorway, and I spoke to his wife. I said hi. I was a kid. I remember saying hi, and she didn't speak to me. She did not say anything back to me. She reached over me to my dad, gave him a kiss, and didn't say a word to me. And a little backstory about that is, the typical female drama between back then. This was back then. This is drama between her and my mom and my brother's mom. So it was like a three-way drama type of thing with my dad in the center. So yeah, and as you can see, it got in that particular moment, it got taken out on me. That's neither here nor there. That's the past. Me and her, we speak. So that's nothing. That's nothing now. But in that moment, you know, I looked to my dad, and he said nothing. Um, he didn't say, Alicia said, hey. He didn't say, it's okay, baby, just go to the back and play. Are you okay? Or, no, like nothing. Just didn't say a thing, didn't acknowledge it at all. And a lot of situations were not acknowledged. So I'm the one that suffered, and I'm the one that went without growing up. Um, because my dad chose his wife, their son together as his family, and in that process, I was left neglected in a sense. I grew up without my dad. He would pop up every blue moon and made up for it by spending money. We would go shopping, and then that was it. Um, as an adult, when I started having children, that's when he started to come around more. I felt like we were going somewhere. He would make up for it. He was an amazing grandpa. Let them come over and spend a night. And then eventually, and I absolutely hated it because I wanted to avoid it so much. I wanted to avoid it. I had such high hopes. But it did. It happened again. And no one has heard from him. Um, and it doesn't hurt. It hurts me because it hurts my kids. So it's no longer about me anymore. So now I have to protect them and protect their feelings. So the questions they may have or the concerns they may have, now I have to explain to them why this is happening, or really try to come up with something, because I can't explain why someone would not want to be a part of their lives, or why somebody would not want to be a part of their mom's life. So, like I said, you can still be in the midst of things and still have a story to tell, still have a testimony about how far you've come. I am still allowing myself to sit in feelings. I am sitting my feelings when they arise. I am still allowing myself to grieve properly. So when I am triggered and thoughts do come to mind about my molestation, when I am triggered and thoughts come to mind, and I see other people in their relationships with their dad, I allow myself to sit in those moments. And I'm going to allow myself to sit in this moment because that's the only way that you're going to heal. That's the only way that you're going to properly grieve. And that's the only way that you're going to overcome any situation. Will you always be 100% when you're grieving a relationship, when you're grieving a situation, when you're grieving a loss? No, you will not. I don't think you will ever be 100%. For anyone who's ever lost anyone to death or just lost a relationship, period, no, you will never be 100%. There's going to be some memory. There's going to be something that reminds you. There's going to be something that comes up, a birthday, an event, or something is going to come up and it's going to trigger something. But the good thing about that is you now have God. You have God as your comforter. You have God as your healer. You have God as your friend. You have God as your keeper. And you can sit with God in those tears, in that vulnerable moment, and you can pray. You can sit in your word. You can sit in your prayer closet, and you just bask in his presence in that moment and allow him to take control of your life. And in that situation, you can forgive. You can forgive and still grieve that particular situation. Just because you cry those tears, just because you may slightly anger at the thought of something, does not mean you didn't forgive them. It's just, hey, the situation, you're human and it hurts you. But you're not going to act on it. You're not going to allow it to hold you captive any longer. And you're not going to allow it to keep you in bondage. Because you're going to pray your way through that thing. You're going to cry your way through that thing. And you're going to get up and you're going to enjoy and you're going to go on about your day. And the amazing thing about God, he is going to send some people in your life who may be where you want to be, who are in the midst of it with you in that moment, who has been where you've been, and so on and so forth. But he's going to send some amazing people in your life. And he has sent some amazing people in my life. For one, I have my family, my sisters, my mama. I have my church family, people that I can call on if I needed to. People I can shoot a text if I needed to. People that I don't even have to say a word, but they will cover me at that altar in prayer. A pastor who will speak over me and my situation and don't even know that that's my situation, but he's just being obedient to God in all aspects of his word and all aspects of his life. So I want to, in closing, encourage you guys to just keep going, to properly grieve any and all situations. Don't suck those tears back up. Don't apologize for those tears. Don't apologize for those feelings. You can be a Christian and still have emotions and feelings. You ain't a human if you don't have emotions and feelings, guys. So I encourage you to sit in those feelings. I encourage you to sit and welcome those tears, welcome those thoughts, welcome those emotions, and face them head on. Deal with them, heal them. Talk to that therapist, talk to that mentor, talk to your pastor, talk to your family, talk to the people around you, your church family. Get into a church home if you don't have one and heal. But most importantly, sit in the presence of God on your own. You don't have a prayer closet? Find anywhere in your home, wherever you can, sit in the presence of God. Pray, talk to him. Get into his word and allow it to feed you and build you up and help heal you and help grow you. I want to Thank you guys so much for tuning in to my very first episode of Testimony Tuesdays with Leisha Nichelle. I pray that it encouraged someone. And if it did, even if it did, like, shoot me a few comments down below, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you share this video with everyone. All right, y'all. I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.